Hi class, this is Mark Jonas, and the purpose of this video is to try to help you with the week 2 assignment. The week 2 accounting assignment is very similar to the one last week. The first thing you need to do is go into the course and download the template that's been provided, and it should look similar to what's on the screen right now. And this looks very similar to last week. Just make sure that you have the most current template, and you can tell that by scrolling over to the right, and you'll see this area that's in yellow. The purpose of this is to help you to determine whether or not the accounting equation is still in balance after you post the effects of each transaction. And so what you should see over here in column AB is that this should say yes after you enter each transaction. So this is basically the same thing as you did last week, except that there's one more part, and that is in part 2 you have to determine the net income. Now remember that net income equals revenues minus expenses. So after you finish part 1, you have to take totals revenues minus total expenses from part 1 to compute the net income. So what we're going to do here is each line is going to represent a transaction. So each transaction, these are labeled the same as they are in the textbook, A through K. So the A transaction goes on row A and only A and B and so forth. So let's take a look at the first transaction to help you get started. If we go to the textbook and open that up, and at the end of chapter 1, this is problem 1-8A, and you'll see that Lita Lopez is starting Biz Consulting. It's a new business, which means that this is the first month of operations, and it's going to give you the transactions that have occurred. And so we've got A through K. So typically what we see here is that the owner is contributing cash and other assets to the company to get it going. So here she invested $70,000 in cash and office equipment valued at $10,000. So what we then have to do is then go to line A, and the numbers are already entered in here. So she gave $70,000. So the company's cash increased $70,000. The office equipment increased $10,000, and then we record her investment in her capital account of $80,000, so that we now have total assets of $80,000 and total liabilities of $80,000. So remember that in this column here, K is the equal sign. So whatever the total is on the left of the equal sign has to equal what's on the right hand side. Let's take a look at one more transaction to help get you started here. And here she purchased an office suite for $40,000 in cash. So from the company's perspective, the company paid $40,000 for the office equipment, so the cash went down $40,000. So for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to reflect that as a negative number. And here the office equipment went up $40,000, so that increased. So another important point of this is that this transaction demonstrates that transactions sometimes only affect one side of the accounting equation. So we can see that total assets didn't change because one asset increased and the other asset decreased, and there was no effect on liabilities or equity in this case, so we're still in balance. So sometimes transactions only affect one side of the accounting equation. Once that's posted, then you go back to C, and here we purchased some more office equipment for $15,000 in cash, so that transaction is very similar. Once you get done with this, what you'll end up doing is go over to the total revenue column. So this will be the total revenues for the period, and you subtract the total expenses, and that'll give you the amount for net income. So that should get you started this week. If you have any questions or need any help, let me know.